Then, a bright blue beam of energy shot out of the bottom of the craft. He experienced a numbing, high-voltage jolt that struck him square in the chest, launching him 20 feet into the air. The three humanoids began to approach him with their hands out. Instinctively, he seized an 18-inch long clear cylinder from a shelf behind him. He started swinging wildly at him and screaming threats. Out of all the alien abduction cases ever recorded, one stands out as the most authentic encounter ever: the Travis Walton abduction. It's the most heavily documented alien abduction case in history. It took place on November 5th, 1975, in the remote forest of Snowflake, Arizona, and is an obscure and unparalleled event. In the annals of UFO encounters, this extraordinary tale of a logger's inexplicable disappearance and return has left investigators baffled. It has also captivated the world with its enduring mystery and exceptional strangeness. This story is Nuckin' Futz. Travis Walton, a humble logger, was not prepared for what lay ahead. As he and his close-knit crew embarked on their routine work in the remote Apache Sitgreaves National Forest, they could hardly have anticipated the bizarre turn of events that awaited them. The mundane task of clearing trees took an otherworldly twist when they spotted an inexplicable, luminous object hovering in the darkened sky. The crew, torn between fear and curiosity, exchanged bewildered glances. Ignoring caution, Travis Walton made the fateful decision to approach the strange craft. This decision would lead to a series of events that would baffle investigators and captivate the world. Travis Walton's story is one that transcends the boundaries of ordinary life. As we delve deeper into the events of that unforgettable night, you'll find yourself immersed in a tale that blurs the lines between reality and the unexplained. Get ready for a mind-blowing journey as we unravel the mystery of Travis Walton's abduction. As the crisp November evening settled over the rugged landscape of Snowflake, Arizona, a sense of routine consumed 22-year-old Travis Walton and his crew. Dressed in layers to ward off the autumn chill, they began their usual work in the vast Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. For these men, it was just another day of laboring amid the towering pines, the hum of chainsaws echoing through the dense woods. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie twilight over the forest, they wrapped up for the day. They loaded their gear into the truck and discussed their plans for later. As they got in the truck and started driving, Travis spotted a strange glow among the trees, which he assumed were deer hunters camped on the hill for deer season. They slowly started down the rough dirt road. Gradually, his crew members also began to notice it. Reaching a clearing with a view of the glow's source, everyone in the truck was utterly astonished. It was a saucer-shaped craft, 15 to 20 feet in diameter. Mike Rogers, the driver, stopped the truck to look at it. Travis feared it might fly away, missing his chance to satisfy his curiosity. He got out of the truck and started slowly walking towards it. "What do you think you're doing?" Mike demanded in a harsh whisper. "Yeah, right?" The clearing was lit up by an eerie golden glow. Travis looked up and saw the glow emanating from the ship's surface. Suddenly, a powerful, deep swell in the craft's volume startled him. Travis said he could feel it more than he could hear it, like a death metal concert. Hearing multiple turbine generators powering up, he panicked. He observed the saucer wobbling, resembling an unstable spinning top. Its movement startled him, and he quickly ducked behind a nearby log for cover. At this time, his buddies in the truck behind him began yelling at him. "Get out of there! Let's go, let's go! Get back into the truck!" To dive behind the log, he had to leap forward, bringing him within 8 to 10 feet of the craft. He quickly stood up, but still crouching, to retreat back to the truck. When he did, he heard a sharp cracking or popping sound. Then, a bright blue beam of energy shot out of the bottom of the craft. He experienced a numbing, high-voltage jolt that struck him square in the chest, launching him 20 feet into the air. The men in the truck witnessed his body arcing backward, limbs outstretched, lifted off the ground by the force of the blow. They saw his body land limply, splayed out onto the ground, motionless. "It got him!" Steve yelled. Dwayne screamed, "Let's get out of here!" "Get this son of a bitch moving!" Alan shrieked hysterically. Mike frantically fumbled with the ignition switch. The engine roared to life. Mike gunned the truck up the boulder-strewn track. He spun the steering wheel desperately, maneuvering a tortuous road. "Is it following us?" he yelled over his shoulder. Nobody answered. "Is it after us?" he shouted again. When again no reply came, he turned and found his crew's faces etched with stupefied shock. In reaction to the unbelievable horror they had witnessed, 6 hardened lumberjacks were reduced to mindless terror. After speeding recklessly on the rocky road and realizing the object wasn't pursuing them, Mike stopped the truck. They argued back and forth about going back. Mike had had enough and said, "This truck is going back. Anybody who doesn't want to come can get out right here and now and just wait. We've been acting like a bunch of cowards." Ashamed at themselves, they went back to the scene. They scoured the area and its surroundings, but found nothing. No Travis, no scorch marks, and no unusual objects or indentations. Nothing. Having combed the mountainside in vain, they abandoned their search for Travis and began the long journey back to Heber. Upon waking up, Travis's recovery was gradual. He felt groggy and weak. He lay on his back on a raised table beneath an overhead light. A bitter, metallic taste filled his mouth. He felt like he was burned inside and out. As he slowly opened his eyes, he observed a triangular ceiling instead of a rectangular one. He assumed it was a hospital, but noticed the hot, humid, stale, and muggy air was unlike any hospital he'd ever experienced. Yeah, they're usually cold as fuck. He was still fully dressed and began to sweat. He noticed a peculiar, shiny, black curved device on his bare chest and abdomen. Peering beyond the device, he discerned blurry images of doctors leaning over him. He couldn't make out their faces, and they were wearing orange-colored surgical gowns. His vision suddenly cleared, and he realized he definitely wasn't in the hospital. He gazed at 3 terrifying creatures, their quarter-sized eyes locked onto him. He went into panic mode and looked around frantically. One of the aliens approached him, and he weakly pushed it with the back of his arm. The alien fell back into another alien. They came around the table towards him. He unsteadily lunged from the table and assumed a wide-legged fighting stance. His body aching and legs weak, he leaned on the counter behind him. See what happens when you skip leg day? The 3 humanoids began to approach him with their hands out. Instinctively, he seized an 18-inch long clear cylinder from a shelf behind him. He started swinging wildly at him and screaming threats. They stopped and stood still, mutely. They were a little under 5 feet in height. Their thin bones were covered with white, marshmallowy looking flesh. They wore one-piece coverall suits made of seamless, orangish brown, suede-like material, without seams, buttons, zippers, or snaps. When they extended their hands, he noticed they had no fingernails. They had disproportionately large heads and underdeveloped, almost infantile facial features. Their thin-lipped mouths were narrow, while tiny, crinkled earlobes lay close to their heads on either side. Their small, rounded noses featured oval nostrils. The only facial feature that didn't appear underdeveloped was those incredible eyes. Those glistening orbs had brown irises twice the size of a human's eye, giving them a somewhat cat-like appearance, with little of the white part of the eye visible. They had no eyelashes or eyebrows. A single doorway was the room's sole exit, and he contemplated an escape plan. They didn't speak or change expression. With the amount of rage and fear he was projecting, their lack of reaction was adding to his panic. The weirdness is just piling on. As he ready to pounce, they suddenly turned and scurried from the room. They went out the open door, turned right, and disappeared. The anticlimax of the retreat was incredible. The blast of adrenaline that had ignited him left him trembling and uncontrollably. He collapsed back against the table and tried to calm down. He needs a shot or a joint, or both. Afraid of the alien's return, he looked toward the door. No sign of anyone. He needed a more formidable means of defense. He saw an array of peculiar instruments on the shelf, but they were too small. He threw the clear tube down on the floor. Filled with determination, he resolved to find a way out. In a panicked sprint, he raced down the narrow, curving corridor, passing an open doorway on his left without looking inside. He saw another doorway 10 more feet ahead on his right. He slowed down to a walk as he neared it. Shields up. He stopped in the opening. He peeked in cautiously. No one was there. The room was empty, save for a solitary chair turned away from him. He checked the hallway behind him. It was still empty. He slowly entered the room. He suspected someone might be seated there, hidden from his view. He cautiously circled the chair at a distance, checking for any concealed occupants. He was ready to beat a hasty retreat if there was. A few steps later, he could breathe a sigh of relief. The chair was indeed empty. He slowly approached the chair. Oddly, the closer he got to it, the darker the room became. Small points of light became visible on or through the walls, even the floor. He stepped back and the effect decreased. He stepped forward again and it increased again. That'd be great for the club, right? The gray metal wall faded, revealing a speckled, deep black space beyond. He looked at the controls on the chair. On the left arm, there was a short T-grip lever. On the right arm, an illuminated lime green screen about 5 inches square displayed intersecting black lines at various angles. Below that, a square of roughly 25 colored buttons organized into 5 vertical rows, each row having a different color. He searched for symbols or text, but found none. The idea he was considering was risky, but he was desperate. Maybe one of those buttons would open a door or something. Or something? Impulsively, he pushed a green button. He looked around and nothing happened. He recklessly pushed another one. The lines rapidly changed angles, slid down on one another, and then stopped. He tried the other colored buttons. Don't push the red button. Nothing happened. Trembling, he sat down on the hard surface of the chair. He put his hand onto the molded T-grip lever. The handle and the chair were slightly smaller for his size. He pushed the lever forward, sensing its gradual fluid resistance. He grew disoriented as the stars collectively descended in front of him. He quickly released the lever, which returned to its original vertical position. The stars ceased their motion but remained in their released positions. Figuring this was the flight controls, he resolved not to tamper with them anymore. I would have. It's joyride time, baby. Leaving the chair, he approached one of the rectangular shapes resembling a closed door. He searched for an opening mechanism. Then he searched for a floor plan or a layout to understand his location and an escape route. But he found nothing. Returning to the chair, he contemplated pressing some more buttons when he heard a faint sound behind him. He whipped around and looked at the door. In the doorway stood a human, a man in a clear helmet, roughly 6 foot 2 inches tall, with an imposing muscular build, weighing about 200 pounds. He wore a tight-fitting, bright blue velour-looking suit. He had no tools, weapons, or insignia on his clothing or belt. Travis ran up to him, rattling off all sorts of questions. However, the man remained silent. Touch his helmet. He firmly but gently grabbed Travis by the arm, gestured for him to follow him. He led Travis through a series of doorways, narrow hallways, and small rooms. Again, he tried speaking to the man, but received no response. Passing through a doorway, fresh, cool air flowed in, reminiscent of springtime outdoors. He deeply inhaled the clean, cool breeze. The last tinges of his aches almost completely disappeared. He descended a short ramp 7 or 8 feet to the floor. Travis looked around to discover that although he was outside that dim, humid craft, he was not outdoors. He was in a huge room. It reminded him of an airplane hangar. The ceiling curved down to form one of the larger walls in the room. The room resembled a quarter cylinder laid on its side. The exterior of the craft they'd recently left resembled the one he'd seen in the woods, but was significantly larger. Its surface was of a shiny, brushed metal luster and radiated a faint heat from its hull. The craft either sat flat on its bottom, or if it had legs, they were only a few inches high. To his left, near one end of the hangar, were 2 oval-shaped saucers, gleaming like polished chrome, their surfaces unblemished and flawless. They sat on very rounded bottoms, and he couldn't see how they balanced that way. Leaving the hangar area, they proceeded down a lengthy corridor. Passing through a set of double doors, they entered a white room measuring 15 square feet. The room had a table and a chair in it. His attention was immediately drawn to the 3 other humans. 2 men and a woman were standing around the table. They all donned velvety blue uniforms like the first man, minus the helmets. The 2 men had the same muscularity and good looks as the first man. The woman also had a face and a figure that was the epitome of her gender, meaning she had big boobs. They were all smooth-skinned and perfect. The man's striking good looks became even more evident when seen alongside the others, who appeared to share a family resemblance. "Would someone please tell me where I am?" Travis implored. He remained deeply shaken from his encounter with those dreadful beings. What in the hell is going on? What is this place? They remained silent, gazing upon him with kindness. One man and the woman approached him around the table. Silently, they each took him by the arm and led him toward the table. Travis contemplated resisting, but realized he was in no position to argue, so he complied. Effortlessly, they placed him on the table's edge, prompting his apprehension and protests. "Wait a minute. Just tell me what you're going to do." Travis initially resisted, but the trio gently pushed him backward onto the table. The woman unexpectedly held an object that resembled a clear, soft, plastic oxygen mask, although it lacked connected tubes. It featured only a small black golf ball-sized sphere. She placed the mask over his mouth and nose, and Travis began to raise his hand to remove it. However, before he could finish the motion, weakness quickly overtook him. His vision faded to gray, and then darkness consumed him. In the wake of Travis's inexplicable disappearance, panic and confusion gripped the logging crew. Unable to locate Travis, they rushed to a nearby payphone, trembling as they called the police for assistance. Deputy Ellison of the Navajo County Sheriff's Department was the first to respond to their frantic call. As Rogers and the crew described the extraordinary experience, Deputy Ellison sensed the authentic fear and confusion in their voices. Shortly after, Sheriff Marlon Gillespie and Undersheriff Ken Copeland arrived, responding swiftly to the urgency of the situation. Initially skeptical, Sheriff Gillespie held his own recollection of a significant UFO sighting in the county a few years earlier. This personal experience tempered his doubts and compelled him to take the crew's account seriously. They got lucky there. Determined to unravel the mystery, he swiftly organized a search team to scour the forest for Travis Walton. The following morning, over 50 individuals from the Forest Service, the county search and rescue team, local volunteers, and the crew members joined the search. Despite their collective efforts, the forest yielded no immediate clues about Travis's whereabouts. Amid the search, Mike Rogers noticed a strange man in a Forest Service uniform using a Geiger counter to scan the area. Interestingly, the Geiger counter initially registered only background radiation. However, when directed at the loggers' hard hats, it showed a surprising 4-fold increase. Despite their request to test the truck, the man silently left the scene. That dude's sketchy as fuck. As days passed, the search operation expanded, incorporating air support. The media quickly caught wind of Travis's inexplicable disappearance. William Spaulding from the Phoenix-based group Ground Saucer Watch conducted investigations at the site. He discovered unusual electromagnetic readings and lingering traces of ozone, intensifying the mystery. That sounds like a lightning strike to me. By November 9th, the 4th day of Travis's absence, doubts began to seep in. The possibility that the crew had fabricated the story to conceal a homicide or a fatal accident gained traction among the police, the public, and even Travis's own family. Each of the 6 loggers faced extensive questioning. On November 10th, the crew members underwent polygraph examinations, administered by Cy Gilson, the polygraph examiner from the Arizona Department of Public Safety. Despite tensions during the testing, including Alan Dallas's agitation rendering his charts unreadable, Gilson's final report contradicted the growing skepticism. He confidently stated that all 6 men were truthful in their accounts of the extraordinary UFO encounter, deepening the mystery of Travis Walton's abduction. Consciousness returned as Travis found himself lying on the cold pavement west of Heber, Arizona. The cold air jolted him awake, and his eyes fixated on an unusual sight. A light going out under a gleaming hull. It either signaled the turning out of a light or the closing of a hatch, plunging the inside into darkness. He then noticed a mirrored outline of a rounded, silvery disc hovering 4 feet above the road, extending several feet off its left side. The craft floated silently, with the highway's centerline reflecting on its curved hull. In an instant, it streaked into the night sky, stirring oak leaves with a powerful breeze as it vanished. What struck Travis most profoundly about this departure was its eerie quietness. Such a large, fast-moving object should have shattered the sound barrier with a sonic boom, but it had been utterly silent. Struggling to his feet, Travis recognized the familiar stretch of road. Panic gripped him as he ran desperately down the deserted highway, knocking frantically on the door of the first building he reached. No responses came, and no cars passed by. Continuing his frantic run, he arrived at a telephone booth at an Exxon station. Without the need for money, he dialed the operator and gasped out his sister's number in breathless urgency. It was 12:05 a.m., and when his brother-in-law Grant answered, Travis shouted in his disoriented state, They brought me back. I'm out here in Heber. Please, get somebody to come and get me." Trembling, he clutched the cold receiver. Initially skeptical, Grant replied sarcastically, I think you have the wrong number," as if suspecting a cruel prank. "Wait, it's me, Travis!" he screamed hysterically into the receiver. Still suspicious, Grant inquired cautiously, "Where are you?" "I'm at the Heber Exxon station." "Okay," Grant responded, his tone shifting towards concern. "Stay right there. I'll come and get you. Just hang on." Grant drove to Snowflake and informed Travis's brother Dwayne about the call. Although they too were initially skeptical, they decided not to take any chances and set out for Heber, 33 miles away. As Travis waited in the phone booth, relief washed over him when he saw the headlights of Dwayne's pickup. Dwayne and Grant rushed to his side and helped him to his feet. Travis looked like he had lost 10 pounds. "Am I ever glad to see you?" Grant exclaimed. Dwayne guided Travis into the warm truck while Grant took the wheel. On the way to Snowflake, Travis attempted to convey what had happened, but was too shaken to fully articulate it. They were awful, white-skinned, great big eyes. He broke into sobs, recounting the horror he had experienced. "Take it easy, Travis. You're all right now. They didn't harm you, did they?" Dwayne asked with concern. "No, but those eyes, those horrible eyes, they just kept looking at me." "Just so you're okay, that's all that counts," Dwayne reassured him. "Everyone has been worried sick about you." If it's already midnight, I must have been unconscious for a couple of hours," Travis stammered. "Because I only remember about an hour or an hour and a half inside that thing. Dwayne and Grant exchanged bewildered glances. Travis, feel your face, Dwayne urged. Good hell! I just shaved this morning, and it feels like a week's growth, Travis exclaimed. Travis, Dwayne said gently, you've been missing for 5 days. Medical examinations later confirmed Travis's severe dehydration and malnourishment, stark evidence of the ordeal he had endured. In the days following his return, Travis underwent extensive medical and psychological assessments, closely monitored by skeptics and believers eager for evidence to validate or debunk his story. However, the results remained inconclusive, leaving the mystery of Travis Walton's abduction unresolved. Travis's reintegration into normal life proved challenging as the abduction had taken a profound toll on his mental and emotional well-being. Yeah, no shit. Nightmares plagued his sleep, and he grappled with the haunting memories of that fateful night. For years, Walton endured relentless media scrutiny and public accusations of fraud and mental instability. Despite intense scrutiny, medical examinations revealed no head trauma and no traces of drugs in his blood or urine, countering the allegations. In Walton's own words, enduring the public's reaction was a hell which nearly overshadowed the experience itself. To clear his name, he sought a polygraph test but wished to avoid the prying eyes of crowds and reporters. Sheriff Gillespie and Walton planned a confidential polygraph with examiner Cy Gilson, but when a reporter inquired about it, Walton skipped the appointment. Afterward, the National Enquirer sponsored a second confidential test with a private firm. But the distress of recounting the events and the examiner's questionable practices led to inconclusive results. Shortly after, Professor James Harder from the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, APRO, conducted regressive hypnosis on Walton. But despite his improved ability to discuss his experiences, no new details emerged. A few months later, both Walton and his brother Dwayne passed another polygraph, but the leaked National Enquirer test results further eroded Walton's public credibility. Debunkers offered various explanations for the logger's accounts, often alleging fraud. Notably, UFO skeptic Philip Klass persistently tried to discredit them. He accused the loggers of fabricating the incident to secure a 10% payout from their logging contract, despite this payout amounting to less than $400 per person, and Mike Rogers later defaulting on the contract, incurring more losses. Klass offered to pay for any polygraph test the men could pass. He delayed indefinitely when they accepted his offer. That's right, he knew they were going to prove him wrong. Chicken shit. In the years that followed, Travis underwent 5 different polygraph tests administered by 3 different examiners, passing them all. An enduring testament to the consistency of his accounts. Polygraph tests have an accuracy rate of 80 to 90% in detecting deception. Although not admissible in court due to their imperfections, they remain valuable as investigative tools and are employed in pre-screening applicants for the CIA and the FBI. When asked if he wished this had never happened to him, he said, "Absolutely. I wish I would have never gotten out of that truck." Walton continued, "They're so much more advanced than us. If they really wanted to replace us on this planet, we wouldn't know what hit us. They're so advanced that if there's a sighting, it's not by accident. It's not like they're going, 'Damn, the humans spotted me again. I gotta be more careful about that.' They're absolutely capable of going undetected, and we would not have any idea they were here. I think they're slowly breaking us in as a species on the fact that they're real and they're here."